Hello, everyone. This is David with Let's Talk Theology. Thank you for joining us in this broadcast. Thank you for being part of the YouTube family. We hope that everyone has been finding all of the videos helpful and useful to your biblical studies. And again, we're only here to try to encourage biblical studies and theological discussion. So we really hope everything has been very helpful and a tool for encouraging not only your biblical studies, but spiritual growth. All right. So again, we're in a study on the book of Revelation, and the goal is to bring some sort of understanding to the overall book. Again, it's not to give you a in-depth and verse by verse exposition, but it is hopefully going to be beneficial in how you approach the Bible and particularly the book of Revelation. We want to set some sort of ground rules and some sort of discipline for studying this book in order to get the proper understanding of what the original writer was intending for the original audience. All right. And hopefully we can get into a discussion later on about the intentions of understanding the Bible versus interpreting it. Our goal here is just simply to understand, not to put any specific or personal interpretation on the text, but just to simply understand what the apostle was trying to give the audience that he wrote to. Now, in a previous video, we spoke about audience relevance, and I think many times when we talk about audience relevance, we think that it is a interpretive conclusion, or that it is a theological system that has been formulated by scholars and by biblical exegetes. However, when we look at the text itself, we find that the text demands that we pay attention to audience relevance. And what we're going to do is we're going to start our study on the first 6 verses of this chapter, chapter 1. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at these verses in each video, kind of bring out the major points and some things that I feel may be a question or may be relevant to enhancing your approach to studying this book. And I think for this particular study, the first one, as we get into the first chapter, I think it is very important for us to identify the audience. This is not an assumption. This is not implication. This is a direct reference from the text. The text itself, it establishes who the audience is and who the apostle is intending to give this letter to. Now, with that being the case, it helps us to understand the intention of the entire prophecy, the entire book, and helps us to kind of understand why certain things were being said and what it might have meant to the original audience. All right. Remember, we cannot form a reasonable application of any text until we first understand the historicity and the original context in which all of these writings are given. All right. When you formulate a firm foundation of historical and contextual understanding, that gives you the ability to formulate a strong application of scripture. All right. And that's what we're doing in this study. Now, look, in verse number 1, he goes off and he begins to talk about how Jesus intentionally gave this revelation to his servants. All right. And generally, when we begin to read this chapter, we begin to talk about the servants being, in our mind, a general phrase or term to describe all Christians everywhere. All right. We take this sort of approach to personalize the text or generalize the text into meaning that all servants everywhere, which in our mind means all believers everywhere, this book is written to us. And I get that from an application standpoint, but remember, we're not trying to form an application just yet. We're trying to really understand what the text is actually saying, so that we can eventually develop a sort of application from this text. So he goes off into saying that Jesus Christ decided to give a revelation of himself to his servants of things that must happen very soon. We'll get to that a little later on. But if you look at verse number 4, we begin to understand who the servants that Jesus makes a reference to, or John makes a reference to in this particular book, we discover who those servants are. And he states from John to the 7 churches that are in the province of Asia. This is who the letter is written to, not just the first 3 chapters or the first 2 chapters, but the entire revelation is to the 7 churches that are in the province of Asia. They were the ones intended to receive this revelation and to benefit from it, and also gain not only direction in how they ought to develop their lives spiritually, but they were through this revelation to see Jesus Christ in a brighter and a more revealed way than they had seen him in times past. Now, the intent of John making this type of thing very clear in the very first verses of the revelation is to help them understand, as they read through this revelation, that the things that they are reading in this prophecy and in this a letter, or a pastoral letter, are things that are specifically relevant to what they are enduring, and the things that are in this book have a specific relation to things that will happen in their lifetime, in their circumstance, in their problems that they're facing as 7 churches in the province of Asia. These things were not just a generalization of all things that were to happen to all people, but it was specifically something that was particular to things that were happening to the 7 churches that were in the province of Asia. Now, when you read the entire book within those parameters, it kind of changes everything that you read, because you're not allowed to generalize the text as we can sometimes do with not only this book, but with the entire Bible. But it makes us really consider what was going on during the time of these 7 churches, along with within the province of Asia. What were the things that were going on? What were they facing? Why would John see to write these things to them in this way? And what was his purpose? Brothers and sisters, I can tell you, whenever you approach the study that way and you begin to investigate it from that perspective and that viewpoint, it will absolutely blow your mind. And truth be told, this is the way we have to study this book. It does not take away anything from us. It actually enhances our understanding of Jesus Christ, because we are reading the Bible the way it is meant to be read. And I think there's no other way to read it. All right. So that's our tidbit on the first 6 verses. We're going to go further into these 6 verses and bring out a few additional points that I think is very important, that I think will help us as we go throughout the rest of the book. But as for now, we're going to leave it right there. We want to maintain your attention, or keep your attention as much as possible. So we're going to break this up into several videos. Again, thank you for watching. Please like and share. Please look around the YouTube channel and look at the other videos that we've posted concerning the book of Revelation. And we're going to continue, God willing, to give you as much as we can to help you in your study on the book of Revelation. Thank you for watching. Until next time, God bless.